Are you running a marathon? Oh my god, I could never run a marathon. You sure about that? My god, a marathon? That's like 42 kilometers, 26 miles. I don't understand those people.
That used to be me. I don't even know if I need to say this by now, but yes, I'm here now, obsessed with running, and I'm the host of the Marathon Podcast, and welcome back, or welcome for the first time if you're new to the podcast. My name is Christian Warwick, aka Warwick Runs on different platforms. I just got in from a very hot long run, a steady one of that, where I had, for those of you who are familiar with Case, I think I had like 4:13, 4:15 average pace for 25 kilometers. Felt pretty good. The heat was a hassle at the end of it. And I think that there's definitely progress these days, which is nice. Looking at another 100K week. I'm excited about running and how it's going these days. I need to get back to the strength training because it's been so much lately, and I don't know, it's just kind of drowned in everything else that's going on. Obviously just a bad excuse, but yeah, running is fun. And I think that I just want to kind of encourage you, if you are a runner who's struggling to get your mileage up, do your strength training or mobility training and just be patient, build it up slowly, and it is easier than you think. So this 100K week has felt super easy, super chill. I don't feel like I've run a lot at all. And so I think that is very promising for everything that's going to come, or everything going forward. But I also am very happy to be at that mileage without it feeling like a lot. So that's me, a little bit of an update. When this episode comes out, we might actually be a week into the future. There's been a lot of guests on lately, which is a lot of fun. And I think that it's so cool to see that people are saying yes, and I'm repeating myself on this, but also cool to have people actually reaching out and be like, hey, love your podcast. And then they happen to be people that I want to have on. So really happy about where things are with the podcast, and obviously also with my running. And speaking of the podcast, I know I keep repeating myself on this, but I just really, really want to build this, and for me to build it and for it to show up and maybe even get on some like lists of podcasts. I would love for you to give this podcast a review, and hopefully a 5-star review if you are loving or liking what you're hearing. Would really appreciate that, and it would help me. And if not, at least share it with a friend. This podcast episode is with Chris Striegel. Chris Striegel is a 2:22 marathoner, and the reason why I know who he is, and the reason why I feel like I know him very well already, is that he is one of the hosts of Life in Stride. It's a podcast that I've been listening to a lot over the last year, maybe year and a half. And I had Danny P on earlier, and I thought it was time to have the second host on. We're going to get to Scotty too, who's the third host. But today it's all about Chris. And this conversation was so much fun. Obviously, we ended up with another long episode, so I hope you are ready for a long run or a long drive, whatever you're doing whilst you're listening to this. But had a lot of fun talking to Chris about his goals, about how his running's going, about his new situation now after the 2:22 marathon, about the Olympic time trial qualifications. I think that one of the things that I learned, or some of the things that I learned from Chris here, and that I haven't heard that much about in the podcast episodes that they have, is like the specifics of his training, the way he's thinking about it, about the long run, about threshold training. And I also know that he's like fairly new to lactate monitoring. So it was fun to talk about those things. I love it when we get a little bit technical, but also trying to simplify it in a way where your average runner and your professional runner can all understand it and use that in their training. So I hope that you as a listener can really benefit from this conversation with Chris, and that uh, you will give obviously Chris a follow, but also give Life in Stride a listen. I think that it's important for us as podcasters to help each other out a little bit. Not that I'm helping Life in Stride out by advertising their podcast on my podcast, but I still think that it's a nice thing to do. And like, if you are a regular listener of this podcast, head over to their podcast and take a look at or listen to their episodes too. I don't think we should waste any more time. I've already talked for a little bit here. Sorry about that, but let's jump into the conversation with Chris. Enjoy it.
I'm ready.
Yeah, I feel like we tend to like have these very nice conversations, and then you have to like kind of be like, oh yeah, what we talked about before we started, and then it would have been so much better to have it on the pod. So
Yep. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
but
yeah, that happens to us almost every time. We get into a conversation and then we're like, okay, save it for the recording. So that's how it goes.
mhm,
But that's good. That means it's going to be a good podcast. So
exactly.
yeah,
Welcome to the Marathon Podcast, Chris. How are you?
dude, I'm great. I just finished long run, and had a good group this morning. So
Mm.
vibes are high. So, but yeah, thanks for having me, man. When you hit me up, I was really excited. This is my first guest appearance by myself. We did another podcast as a group, but yeah, I'm excited, man. This is awesome. So thank you.
Yeah, no, I've been excited to have you on. I had Danny on a few weeks ago. Your co-host of the of Life in Stride, and I'm so grateful to you guys' podcast. Like, whenever there are new episodes, and I'm just listening to them. I'm listening to them whether I'm doing workouts or long runs or easy runs. So it's a great company to have, and I was thinking about it before our conversation here. It's so weird because obviously you and we've never talked, but I still feel like I know you
Yeah,
somehow, and it's
we've
yeah.
messaged some before, but yeah.
Mhm,
That's a lot of people say that. It's funny, like if you listen to someone, and I've seen your content online and follow you on Strava,
mhm.
obviously. So you had an awesome Boston video, by the way, too. But yeah, I feel like I already know you too because I've
Thank you,
seen
appreciate
a
that.
lot of your content. So yeah, that's how it is, man.
I think that Yeah, I think that's what's so unique about running, or I guess like the world today, that you feel like you get to know
Yep.
people, but I also feel like it's a little bit about how you are, like like what your presence online is like. Because I feel like you guys in your podcast, and also your content, like the content that you've been posting lately of you just out there running,
Yeah.
like I feel like you're just having, it's almost like a voice message
Yep.
in video format to me, like
Yeah.
and I know that it's not for me, but it kind of feels like it still. And that, because I think that a lot of people will also have podcasts or YouTube channels, and you don't really feel like you get to know them. You feel like they're still so far away. But I think that I would say that one of the reasons why your podcast is succeeding the way it is, like, is that it feels so personal. You feel like you get to know you guys, and like
Yeah.
the last episode is a great example of that. You guys you're just talking about things. It feels like you guys are meeting up to have a conversation, and then you happen to record it.
Yeah. So those are the most fun podcast. And that was the idea when we started the podcast, was like, we all have full-time jobs. We're not professional runners, but we're like training hard. We're trying our best. And that relates to, I mean, pretty much a very small niche of runners are professional. Everyone else works full time, does other stuff, and then they're
Mhm.
just before, after, during work squeezing in their runs. And so that was kind of the idea, is like, this is going to relate to a lot of people. But yeah, the banter episodes where we don't have a guest, those are my favorite because they're just fun.
Mhm.
There's no
Yeah.
planning. We just have a good time. But
Mhm.
obviously, like, to grow the podcast and, get more views, it's important to have like guests on, and like they share it with their
Mhm.
audience, and then hopefully, some of their audience sticks around with us. And a great
Yeah.
example of that was Floberg. Um,
Hmm.
we had him on the first time. We've had him on a few times now, and we've become great friends with him, which has been awesome. And yeah, a ton of his audience stuck around with us, and that was like our biggest growth
Yeah.
so far. So yeah, it's just
Yeah.
important to get good guests on, and then hopefully, they like you enough to stick around, and that's what's been working for us. So
Yeah, exactly. And I think that that is it's a very interesting game because I thought about it myself. Like my experience listening to the Life and Stride podcast is a great example because I started out obviously wanting to. My in was also Eric. Like I saw that he posted something about it, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna check this out. And so I listened to the episode with him, and then I started like looking at what names do I know
yep,
in terms of the guests because I didn't know you guys, didn't have a relationship to you guys.
yep,
Like I don't know who these guys are, and then you start listening to that, and what I think is great is that you guys have, and it's not a lot, like maybe 2 minutes in the beginning or at the end where you're talking about your own running,
yeah,
and and by doing that, I get to know you guys, and it's not too much, so I'm like obviously sticking around for that, and then the guest comes on, and then you slowly get used to it, and then you like I don't know when it was like a couple of months ago. I was like, oh, I have to go back and listen to the first episodes just to see what that was like, and then you go back, and that's also a lot of fun to see where you guys were, and
Y-
yeah.
yeah. So the first episodes we were just using like our phones and AirPods, so the
Hmm.
audio is not quite as good until we get microphones around. I don't know, probably episode 15 or 20, but yeah, it's been fun. I wish every episode we could just I like having guests on for sure, but I wish every episode it could just be us bantering like that because we could do it for sure, but um, you know, in order to grow, and we have some awesome guest interviews too. I get really
Hmm.
excited for those. But yeah, just like talking about our training and stuff. I really enjoy that, and it's fun knowing that like people are interested enough in it because, like I said, we're not pro athletes,
No.
but we've been running well lately, all three of us, and yeah,
Hmm.
it's been fun to share our journeys, and all of us have been progressing. So yeah, it's just fun to share for sure.
But I also think that you're representing like different runners, like you being we're gonna present you more very soon, but like you being a 222 marathoner now, and then like you know when Danny was on here, he told us about his journey and where he started, and so it's I think that the average Joe, whatever you'll call it, like will be able to relate more to maybe Danny's journey
Yep.
and then see him now being like, oh wow, that's great. And then like for someone like me who's really I'm now all in on this, then I'm seeing what you're doing and I'm like, okay, maybe it is possible, you know. So I think that you're hitting a target group that is much wider because there are three of
Yep.
you and you have different backgrounds and different ways into this. And I think that is also a great thing for a great thing for you guys in terms of the audience
Yep.
and I also think it's cool because it's so clear that you guys are obsessed with running. So whenever you have guests on too, you're very curious and you can tell that some of the questions are obviously like very
Yeah.
casual, like with the rapid fires of like favorite ice cream and stuff. But then you have some more training specific stuff,
Yeah.
which probably is much more like it will actually benefit you in your training to know what Rory Linkletter is doing, right?
Yeah, and the guys always kind of rely on me to ask like the more like training specific stuff a lot, and
Yeah.
I'm the most curious about that stuff because I want to learn. And
Hmm.
I mean, my whole last 222 block was inspired by several different other runners training. I kind of
Yeah.
pieced together several different runners training in that block, and yeah, so I love learning from people we have on the pod. But you're right, like I've been running competitively for I guess like 15, 16 years now since I was in middle
Hmm.
school. I've been training with a serious coach at a high level for a long time. And, but then, Danny, his first marathon was like almost 4 hours, like 5 or 6
Yeah.
years ago, maybe. And then Scotty's been running for like 2 or 3 years. So, yeah, we all have different backgrounds. You're right. And that's like, that relates a lot with several different audiences. So yeah, I'm glad to hear that perspective from you. That makes me feel good about the who we're reaching and who's listening to us.
Yeah, no, I definitely think you guys have a pod for everyone. I honestly think that in some ways your podcast can be great for people who are not even into running.
Yeah.
Like yeah. So now people are probably like, because I tend to forget, since I'm obsessed with running and I'm obsessed with your podcast, I tend to forget that not everyone knows what podcast we're talking about, Life in Stride, and not everyone knows who you are. But if you want to present yourself like quickly,
Uh,
who's Chris?
yeah. I'm Chris Striegel. I'm 28. I live in Louisville, Kentucky, in the U.S. I work in health insurance, so I have an insurance job as my day job, Monday through Friday, and I'm married with no kids yet. My wife's a police officer, and yeah, I'm 222 marathoner. Just ran 222. I guess about a month ago now, and I ran a 108 half this year as my half time. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I've been running for like 15 or 16 years, and yeah, I'm a co-host of Life and Stride podcast. We've been doing it for I guess a year and a half or two now, a year and a half probably. So on episode 150, so it's going great. So that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, and you briefly said that you've been running for like 15 years.
Yep.
What has your like what was your approach to running? How did it all start, and how has your progress been from 15 years ago until today?
Yeah, so I'm a pretty like small. I'm like 5'8", 5'9". I don't know what that is in centimeters for my European listeners, but I'm like it's average height, and I'm pretty
Mhm.
small, 140 pounds. So I'm a pretty small guy. I've always been pretty small as a kid too. So I played American football growing up, and I wasn't good at it obviously because like I was all the bigger kids were destroying me, and so I decided to go out for a cross country in middle school, like grade 6. And yeah, at that point, I guess like after a year, I got pretty good. By the next year, I was running, sub 6 mile pretty quickly. And by my eighth grade, so the year before high school, I was running like a 450 mile. So going into
Wow.
high school, I was like, and I had gotten like a serious coach at that point. We had like a club team that I had joined
Mhm.
here in Louisville, and met a lot of friends along the way, which was helpful too. That were serious about it. And in high school, like things really took off. I went to a very competitive high school here. It's called San X High School. We've won um, many state championships there. So in the U.S., the um, every state has their own championship. So that's like the big deal here is to win
Mhm.
the state championship. So I went to like the best school in the state for running. It's like a Catholic school here, and yeah, very serious coach. We were running up to like 70 or 80 miles a week. So I guess that would be like 100 and like 20-ish Ks from like,
Mhm. Mhm.
age 14 to 18 kind of. And yeah, we were ranked as high as fifth in the country while I was there. So
Wow.
yeah, at that point, I ran, I think a 15:07 5K in high school. And like, yeah, so like I progressed quite a bit every year there after I had a few stress fractures, but yeah, progressed pretty rapidly in high school. And then I had the opportunity to then run in college, had a few different colleges that offered me some scholarship, and I ended up staying home and went to the University of Louisville. It's a Division 1 school here where we're from, and I hated it.
Yeah.
It's like
Why?
it's one of those schools where it's a really big school, so the classrooms are some of the classes have like 3 or 400 people, and I just like have a really hard time focusing in like
Yeah, I get that.
yeah, a situation like that.
Yeah.
And then I didn't really like the coach either. We had several Kenyan athletes on the team who were awesome and good to learn from, but he was much more focused on them than he was on like developing me individually.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I decided to transfer to a, smaller Division II school, so like a smaller school here, still in Louisville, and I excelled there quite a bit. So yeah, I ended up running. I got All American there 3 times, which is like finishing in the top 40 at the national meet, and then
Hmm.
14:25 5K and 29:48 in the 10K. So solid
Wow.
progression while I was there,
Yeah.
and that was my introduction to high mileage there too. So
Wow. And so how, like you said, you're 28 now.
yeah,
This was college.
yep.
What, like, what were your ambitions back then, like in college? Was like, did you dream of going pro? Was that your kind of like, that was your plan, or where
Y-
were you at?
Yeah, I think at some point in college, I dreamt that for sure, but honestly, my track speed isn't at the level that I think is required to go pro. So I'm much more of a long distance guy. So like,
Hmm.
my 1500 time was only like 401. So I get
Yeah.
better as the distance goes up for sure. So
Yeah.
I dreamt of that and progressing to a point where I could maybe think about that, but not quite at that talent level at the track events. So I was really good at cross country, but the other track events,
Hmm.
not really my forte. So, but yeah, I don't know. I wanted to continue running after college at a serious level for sure, but um, yeah, no, pro ambitions were on my mind for a bit, but there's a certain talent level that is required for sure, and I'm not quite there. Hopefully, my marathon time can get there one day, but not
Hmm.
not on the track for sure.
Yeah, because my next question, or like, would be, now that you've done a 222, uh, and I know that like a big goal for you now is to qualify for the Olympic trials. Um, what is your like long term dream or goal for your running?
Olympic trials is number one for sure. I still have a lot of work to do to get there. So the Olympic trials time was 2:18 in 2024, and they dropped
Mhm.
it to 2:16:00 for 2028. So I just ran 2:22, which was a nice breakthrough in the marathon, but still got to chop off 6 minutes. So that's a lot to do. I don't know if I don't think it's realistic to say I have like pro ambitions right now, because I think I'd at least have to drop 10 minutes off my time to get like any sort of looks like that in the U.S. But
Mhm.
I think right now, like the most reasonable like long term goal to have is the Olympic trials. If I ran under 2:16, that would be I think like my maybe like potential I can reach is like around 2:15 or 14 if everything goes well and I don't get hurt. But yeah, right now that's like my all in focus is making the trials. So that's my goal for that's 100% what I'm worried about the next few years. So
Yeah.
see if we can make it happen.
But I'm really curious, and I'm always curious when people say this, like what you just said, that you think that your potential is, and then you kind of, you say a time.
Yeah.
What is this? What is that based on? Because to me, I'm a little bit like, well, if I did this, then why not this? You know what I mean? So like, you did 222 now, then it's like, okay, so why not in a year or two a bit faster? But then if you do like 216, like, why not 212?
Yeah.
You know where I'm going, but
Yeah. I think, I don't know. That's a great point. I mean, I think I just don't want to like I guess get too ahead because like I said, I just ran 2:22 and that was like a big breakthrough for me. That was an 8 minute PR or 7.5, and I don't know. So like just saying like 2:15 something even now sounds like kind of crazy. So like I
mhm,
mean like I'm until I'm like in my late 30s or around 40, I'm all in on trying to drop my marathon time. So who knows what I can do over the next 8 to 10 years, but uh yeah, I don't know. I think you see guys like, Rory, like we mentioned earlier, and just guys running around like 210, 212 range, and they have
Mhm.
like really good track times. Like Rory's, I think he's a sub 28 10K guy. He's broke 4 in the mile. Clayton Young, Connor Mann's, they're solid times on the track. So I think like I need to like get my track times at least back to where I was like in college, to like even
Yeah.
because like I ran a 10K on the road this year and it was like 31:30 or so, but then my
Mhm.
marathon pace is like I don't know, like 3:20 to 3:25. It showed like that's really close, right? So
Yeah.
I need to make my shorter races like pace faster in order to make marathon pace under like 2:16 like more realistic, because right now it's just like
Mhm.
it's almost my 10K pace, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I just like, and maybe I just need to be more confident in myself, but it's just like the paces are scary right now for sure. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah.
try. Yeah,
No,
yeah,
I totally get you. I'm just curious about that when people talk about their potential. I think that it does make sense if, say, you were at 215 and you tried for 5 years to go faster and you never went faster than 215. Then I could potentially also argue that, okay, maybe 215 is your
yeah,
potential if you've been trying for that long. But I'm always curious when people are like, I'm not saying that they're analyzing it in that way, but it's like if you hear coaches or something, it's like, yeah, he's a good runner, but I think like his potential is probably not faster than
yeah,
whatever time there. And it's just like on what grounds? Like there's you don't know where you could go, right? But
yeah.
I also understand that part of like not too high expectations and not to be kind of like, I don't know, too carried away with that when you run fast. Like I finished when I finished my first marathon, I was like, okay, next time I'm doing a sub 240. Like I was immediately there, and then I got injured,
Yep.
and you just like, okay, no, but but I still think that, I don't know, when you throw it out there, then there's a bigger chance of making it, and you will show up every day to do it because you put pressure on yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like something that's like tough to swallow too in running is like some people are just born with a little more talent than others for sure.
Yeah,
I know this is a great example. There's a guy that lives here in Louisville with us, and he's a 218 marathoner, but like the highest mileage week he ran training for that was like 100K, like 60 miles.
yeah,
And
yeah.
like, for me to run 222, I had to get up to 200K plus, right?
Hmm.
So there's a certain degree of like, and someone like Kipchoge and a lot of the African guys, they just have like a certain level of talent that it's
Yeah.
just like, obviously they're still working hard, right? But it comes a little more naturally to them to run these fast paces.
Mhm.
So some people have to do other things like run extremely crazy miles and stuff like that to kind of
Yeah.
catch up with that group. So yeah, so it's kind of it's tough to swallow that, but that's just part of like the sport at the highest level. Is
Yeah.
that natural born talent too. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, it makes a lot of sense.
yeah, yeah,
We kind of skipped a little bit ahead here because we jumped straight from your college running to today.
yeah.
So how old were you when you did your first marathon?
I think I was 23 or 24 years old, so it was in 2019. So yeah, yeah, I guess I was like 23, and I ran 237. First marathon,
Hmm.
Indianapolis, 2019, and I went through halfway in 114, and then I came back with a
Wow.
123. So it was
Hmm.
a hard way to run 237. I knew nothing about super shoes had just come out. I knew nothing about fueling really at that point, and so I bonked and I actually walked a lot at the end of that race. So to run 237 with several periods of walking was not bad, but
No, that's not bad at all.
yeah, yeah. So it was an okay start. I really wanted to break 230 because I still had some college fitness.
Yeah.
And so yeah, but didn't quite work out. That was a brutal first marathon for sure.
Isn't that the same time that Ran to Japan or Jake had for his first marathon?
Yeah, yeah.
Didn't he have something? He had something like that too.
Yeah, yeah, I think when he moved to Japan, his time was, like, yeah, 2:37 or 8, so,
Hmm.
yeah, he's just yeah, I he's a huge inspiration for me. We've had him on a couple times, and,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm a huge fan of his.
I think that one of the things that I think is really cool about him is obviously he has this train harder, not smarter, and all of that. But and that's fun. But he is probably more like he's so much smarter than most people because if you look at his easy runs, and that's something that I was just gonna show my dad one of his crazy weeks. And so I went into his Strava, and then I realized how easy he is running
Yeah.
those, or how slow he's running those easy runs. And that's something that I've really realized lately is that there is easy runs and there are like easy runs,
Yeah.
like it's great when I go out with my dog because he wants to pee everywhere and mark, and so that makes me run a bit slower. So I'm just, and I was also watching, I don't know if you saw the documentary or the series with William Gooch running across Australia.
I
uh
know what you're talking about, but I haven't watched it, yeah.
yeah, it's a really good, like I love the series. But what was funny was that I was watching all of it and I was seeing how he was running because obviously he can't run very fast when
Yeah.
he's running those distances. Um, and then one day I was like, let's try to imitate that kind of running on my easy runs.
Mhm.
And I didn't end up going super slow, but my heart rate dropped and I didn't feel like there was any mechanical load at all.
Really?
So yeah, I honestly feel like, and that's when I really was able to just have those 100K weeks that I've had now a couple of weeks without feeling like it's hard on my knees or hips at all. So that was actually a big realization. And so like Jake and and William Gooch combined kind of made me realize that.
Yeah, I mean, the easy running, I used to run quite a bit faster in college, but I'd always deal with injuries on my easy days. And yeah, now, like I said, we were talking about earlier, I run, 5 to even 5:30 per K some days on my easy days. And I mean, I just run how my body feels and tells me to run. So,
Hmm.
whatever's easy is the pace that day. So, usually I'm sitting between 115, 125 heart rate, and very
Yeah.
relaxed. No
Hmm.
stress, and it's been working for me. I mean, that's really just zone one running. It's not even zone two, and
Yeah.
I've worried that I'm going too slow sometimes, but
Mhm.
after this past marathon went really well. I'm gonna keep doing it. So
Honestly, I don't think you can go too slow.
no,
Like even if you are like doing 630 per K, I think that you'd still have a great benefit from that because that's not where you're building your capacity, right?
no,
Or you're building the capacity, but in a very different way. Then it's more like the capillary system.
yep,
I used to, I usually just say that it's like the blood finding new paths or ways to flow in, or
yeah,
yeah, whatever. That's what's great about those runs. And then y- like polarizing your training too will probably benefit you even more because then your body is able to actually recover on those easy runs, and then you can work when you're working. Like when it's hard work, then it's hard work.
yeah, exactly.
Um,
Yeah, I mean you're right. So like the easy days are really just like fillers for when you're actually gonna get the most benefit, which is your obviously your workout days. So
yeah.
yeah, that's how I think of it. Obviously, like getting in volume on those days is good for training, but it doesn't mean it has to be like you said. It really doesn't matter the pace as long as you're. I mean, you probably want your heart rate over 100 at least, like to get something out of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like zone one is, I think I said on our podcast after Bayshore, after my 222, like I bet like 80% of my um, training for that race was over 5 minutes a K,
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I mean, it works, super low heart rate. And just like I said, like my best advice would just be whatever feels easy, like make it, that's the pace. There's no, you're
Hmm.
going out for an easy run. Don't have a set pace. Just whatever is conversational and relaxed for you. That's your easy pace. So
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I agree. And I don't usually like to talk about like shoe rotations and stuff on the pod because everyone's talking about that. But I'm curious what your experience has been because like from my perspective, especially lately, is that now I have way too many shoes, obviously, and then I've tried to figure out what shoes will do I want to wear for each training or workout, and most importantly, like why am I choosing to wear those? Not like I feel like I used to be more like, oh, I'm gonna wear these shoes today because they're
Yeah.
fast. And like that was the argument. Now I feel like it's more like if I'm going out for that very easy run, just to then I feel like okay, I'm just recovering, then I will pick or choose something that is so there's a lot of cushioning and I'm just feeling like it's I don't know, just so nice to run in. And then like I have some shoes that I feel like okay, now I have to work more, like my calves have to actually work to get through this workout. And then obviously have the super shoes for some
Yep.
workouts, and finding that balance it's worked for me. But I'm curious about your take on this. Do you rotate a lot? Do you have like is there intention behind your shoes or the shoes of your trainings?
Yeah. So for most of my easy days, I'm always in the Saucony Triumphs. I use the Brooks Glycerin some too, and the main thing is I like max cushion and I like a high heel to toe drop. So I tend to stay away from like the Hokas because I have a history of Achilles issues. So
Mhm.
um, the shoes with a higher drop is much more friendly to the Achilles. So that's like my number one thing is like, okay, is the drop over 8 millimeters? Then like, okay, I can wear the shoe. So like the bulk of my
Yeah.
miles are in those like thicker cushion, like I said, the Saucony Triumph Brooks Glycerin. And then I guess my favorite workout shoe, it depends what I'm doing, but most of the time I'm in the Nike Zoom Fly for workouts. So
Mhm.
it's pretty much it's got a carbon plate, but there's no like super foam in it, or not as much as like
Yeah.
their super shoes.
Mhm.
And then for if I'm gonna do like a harder long run or like uh if I do like a midweek workout that's like really hard, then I might use the Alpha Flies, and I usually just use an old
Yeah.
pair that I'm not racing in anymore.
Mhm.
But yeah, and then for like harder long runs, I always use the Alpha Flies. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think it's hard to avoid working out in non-carbon plated shoes now. They're just
Mhm.
so good. But yeah, I would say 80% of my running is in the Saucony Triumphs. Like today, my progression long run, it didn't get down to like a super fast pace, so I just wore my easy run shoes for that. No
Okay.
need to wear
Yeah.
the super shoes. But yeah, so that's kind of my three is the Saucony Triumph, Nike Zoom Fly for workouts, and then yeah, Alpha Flies for the longer, harder stuff. So yeah, pretty simple.
Do you think but do you think we're too obsessed with shoes? Like that we're making it a bit too complicated for ourselves just because there is so much out there.
I think some people do for sure. I mean, if and well, something that's been great about having the pod is like, we're making a little like extra money from the podcast. So, and I
Mhm.
usually just like spend it on running stuff. So that's been nice
Yeah.
to like have some extra like money to justify buying more running shoes. But
Mhm.
um, yeah, I don't know. I think there is a little more thought than there needs to be on shoes for sure right now. It's a very popular topic, and there's so many different shoes that advertise different things, like the new Pumas that came out. That's like the hot
Mhm.
super shoe right now. And I'm sure they're amazing, but yeah, I think there's a little too much emphasis on shoes right now. The problem is, and I used to work at a running store in college, so I get it. Like, it's fun to try new shoes. Like, a lot of shoes feel different. But then at the end of the day, like, you know, obviously, like a shoe like an Alpha Fly or like a Puma Fast R3 might affect your like marathon performance by a little bit. than like if
Hmm.
you don't have a carbon racer on. But I mean, they're not going to do the work for you. So you can't,
No.
as long as you have like a good carbon shoe for race day. I The rest really doesn't matter a ton, but I'm not saying, if you're really passionate about shoes, you know, you be passionate about shoes. There's no problem with that. It's
Yeah.
fun. Like I get it. Like shoe reviews and like people talking about shoes is so popular on running social media,
Hmm.
and for good reason. Like I said, it's fun.
Yeah.
Just all the different stuff coming out and new technology. But yeah, the main thing is carbon racers for race day. But besides that, you don't need to think about it or worry about it too much.
Yeah.
So
No.
yeah,
No, I agree. Like I'm obsessed. Like if you look behind me here, you see
yeah,
these are some of the shoes that I'm rotating right now. But like to me, it's also a lot of the curiosity of figuring out what shoes like because I've struggled a little bit with injuries, and then it's like what shoes to wear for, especially my easy runs or like for like the overall, like the main shoe of the week. Which ones to wear that I feel like I can just run in and my goal is to buy shoes and then just sell those or sell the ones that I'm not really
yeah. Not
a
like
big fan of,
yeah.
because I don't feel like I can get on like a treadmill in the store and tell after 2 minutes of running whether or not they are good for me, you know?
Yeah, yeah, you're right. You got to like find something that a lot of runners like do is like they find a shoe that's like really working for them, and then they like want to try like something else just because like just because like you want to try something else, and like that's where I
Hmm.
think people mess up, and where I've messed up before is like I just get bored buying the same shoe every time, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, like this shoe looks cool, or I want to see how that feels, and I try that, and then like it doesn't work. So the main thing is like
No.
you got to find something that works and then stick with it, even if it's boring.
Yeah.
That's what's
Yeah.
worked for me with the Saucony Triumph for a while now. So
Hmm.
yeah, that's the thing. It's just hard because people want to try new stuff, but you got to stick with what
Yeah.
works. So
Yeah. I agree.
yeah,
I'm curious about you did mention that uh, all your guests on your podcast, like they have all taught you little something, or like at least that you kind of put together your training plan
yeah,
or whatever, like a little bit based on the guests' input or their experiences.
yep,
What is it that you feel like after now 150 episodes of Life in Stride? What is it that you've learned, and what is like the most valuable lessons that you've taken with you into your own training after that?
yeah. So the biggest one for me is we talked about him, Jake Bearclaw, ran to Japan. He's influenced me the most with the volume. And
Mm,
my track PRs, in college, I was running like 160K per week, so I was doing like pretty high mileage then, and then I kind of hadn't done it for several years until this past year, and got back into it after just hearing his story and having him on. I decided to get back up to some pretty high volume, and I'm a really good responder to it. It works well for me, and so
mhm,
that he's like been the number one influence on me. But I will say, like, and I mean, a lot of the pros we have on, Rory does a lot. Uh, Dakota Lindworm or Popane, she was on the U.S. Olympic team. We just had her on. She's a high mileage person as well. But the people that have kind of influenced my training the most, besides Jake, and we haven't had him on the pod, but Connor Mance and Clayton Young, I've like stolen some of
mhm,
their
mhm.
like VO2 type workouts on the track, and they do a lot of like really hard effort workouts. I don't like to do uh, that every week, but like once a month, I'll like kind of steal one of their workouts and do that. And that's
Yeah.
what I did for this past block. But then the main thing, my main workout sessions that I've taken, well, from Jake, have been like the steady long runs. So like long
Mhm.
marathon type efforts at like 80 to 90% of marathon effort. That was like a huge factor for me, this last build. But then also just like double, I mean, I don't know. I guess Jakob Ingebrigtsen made double threshold popular. or he
Yeah.
was one of the people that, it's the Norwegian method. I know you're in Norway.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that has been really, really helpful for me too, is the double threshold. And I know a lot of people use that, and that's just been hugely beneficial for me. You got to make sure the paces are accurate on that if you don't want to
Yeah.
overdo it. But yeah, the double workout sessions, it's just like so much volume, and so much benefit if you're doing it right. And so yeah, I've kind of just pieced together stuff from a lot of different people, over the last year or so. But that the main thing I tell the guys that I coach like 10 or 12 people, and I tell the guys on the pod
Yeah.
this is like, I guess what I've learned is like, yeah, volume is number one and most important thing, but then, you still want to get like some tempo work in, some threshold work in, and then some like VO2 faster stuff in the most. And so all of that's important to like a good training block. It's just like figuring out when to do everything. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the key. So I've kind of had to learn that along the way. But you got to get all the different stimuluses and paces in. You just got to be smart about when you're doing it. So, um, but yeah, I guess I've just learned a lot from a bunch of people that we've had on the
Yeah.
pod and not on the pod. But there's a lot of different ways to train, a lot of good ways to train. But for me, the most important thing is not overdoing it ever. So you just got to make
Mhm.
sure you're not crossing like that red line too much in training. So yeah,
Yeah, because what is your philosophy on, so say, I feel like one of the most overused terms today is threshold
yeah,
training. Like, and I'm not saying that it's overused in terms of the effects of it, because threshold training is something that I really believe in. And obviously, like, I guess coming from Norway and you have the triathletes and
yep,
like one thing is Jakob and his brothers and like the track and field guys, but you also have the triathletes with Christian Blumenfeld. And I remember, because I think that they're not getting enough credit for actually introducing that, because I have some triathlete friends and they talked about how the intensity of what they call a threshold workout is not what a lot of people would actually call a threshold
yep,
workout. And I've seen that your coach Victor, he's also really good. Like
yeah,
me coming from skating, if we call it threshold training, it would be like somewhere between 3 and 4 on the lactate monitor. Whilst with Victor and Ben, I've seen that their first threshold training is like 1.7 or 1.8, which is like at least historically for me considered easy.
yeah,
Like in terms of the lactate, not heart rate, but like if my lactate was like 1.7, I'd be like, okay, cool, that's low intensity.
yeah.
And so, what is your approach to this? Like, when you say threshold, what is that for you? And also, what does like a double threshold day look like for you?
Yeah, so this is a great question. So before I picked up Victor, I coached myself the last marathon block. So the 222 block, self coached, was the first time I've self coached in a long time. And threshold for me was about, it was like between 320 and 330 per K, which is closer to like my lactate threshold 2, which is like the anaerobic threshold. So I would sit around 175 beats per minute. But yeah, you're right. Like I'm learning from, there's really like two different threshold ranges. LT1 is like your aerobic threshold, and then
Hmm.
LT2 is like your anaerobic threshold. So, which is like, so LT1 is like a little slower than marathon pace, and then LT2 is like closer to like half marathon kind of pace. And
Hmm.
um, so I guess like the way I was doing it for the 222 block was mainly closer to like the LT2 pace, but I'm learning with Victor now, and this is why it's good to have a coach. I just knew like he knew more about it than me. And you're right, like
Hmm.
threshold is so like generalized right now. People just like run any pace and say it's threshold. But like to
Exactly. Yeah.
truly like say it's a threshold workout, yeah, you need to get a threshold test, like lactate threshold test, see where your lactate is at certain paces, and then you need to be testing while you're working out to like actually
Hmm.
say it's like actually threshold pace.
Yeah.
Or if you want to like generalize it, you can use your max heart rate and then kind of judge based on that. And that's what I was doing
Mhm.
before
Yeah.
I started with Victor. So yeah, I would say I was more in the LT2 range, the whole 222 block, because I was um, training for that race. But now something that as I picked up Victor, we're doing LT1 um, training like first, and then we hop into LT2. Either like we'll do like a 10-minute LT1 warm up, and then hop into LT2 stuff, or it's like LT1 in the morning and LT2 in the afternoon. So the LT1's kind of like a warm up, and then LT2 is kind of like the meat of the like the harder stuff. Or so you want to do that second from the LT1, but yeah, it's a lot for sure. Like it's very scientific, and I
Yeah.
don't know. I
But if we were to simplify this a little bit to the listener who's never gonna own a lactate
Yeah.
monitor, or who's like not even wearing his or her heart rate monitor, like the strap or whatever, can you try to explain in terms of a feeling, what does LT1 feel like and what does LT2 feel like?
Yeah, LT1 should be like a pretty, like I said, it should be like slightly slower than like your marathon effort. Is the best way I would describe it. So if you can kind of
Mm,
think about like how hard you're running, what your marathon pace would be. Um, yeah, so it should still be like you should be able to have a conversation still, but it's faster than like your easy pace. So if you can like kind of think in your head like how what's my marathon pace, and then back it off like maybe like 5-10 seconds per k. That's like a good way to kind of
mm,
generally think of LT1. And then LT2, the best way I like to describe it is like you're like touching the red line, but you're not crossing it.
mhm,
So meaning like you're like pushing like just to where it's like still comfortable, but like right when it gets
mhm.
uncomfortable, like too uncomfortable, you've gone too far. To where it feels
Yeah.
like you're almost at like a max effort. So you got to like kind of ride that red line of like I'm pushing, but I'm not like going over the line of like race effort or like VO2 type
Mhm,
effort. So
mhm.
I always like saying that. It's like yeah, get to the line, but you're not crossing it.
Yeah,
So yeah,
I like that.
yeah. So it's like for me, my max heart rate's around 200. LT2 is like 175 to 180 beats per minute, and then LT1 is more like 155 to 65 type. So yeah, I don't know.
But
Yeah,
do you build those up a little bit in terms of like, so say you have 5 sets of something on your LT2. Do you then have like progression in those sets, or do you have the same pace for all 5 sets?
uh, yeah, it'd be the same pace. I mean, you could build into a little bit, but like if you want to start a little slower than LT2, but there's like a certain pace. It should be like the same pace for all of it essentially. Like if you're getting
Mm-hmm.
faster and faster to the point that I think that then it becomes more of like a VO2 session where you're like going past threshold if you're like doing like a progression type in a workout.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because it's easy to like go past the line when you're like progressing like that. I think like for a
Yeah.
proper threshold workout, it needs to be like right at the like pace that's like in the right zone for you. So if you start a little slower than threshold, that's fine, or LT2, that's fine, and get down to it. But yeah, the main thing is like you don't want to go like the key of threshold
Mm-hmm.
training is like don't go past the line. Like stay within that
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
pace zone within the 2, 3, 4 seconds per k. So that's the key. So yeah, my advice would be stay within a very close pace zone for sure instead of dropping it too much. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I know that a lot of people tend to get a bit too caught up maybe in the pace to like, to say you're out running and it's super windy, or it's like
Yeah.
more rolling hills than you would normally have, and then they're like, well, my coach told me 3:30, I need to stick at 3:30. Like, what do you do in those cases? Like, are you looking more at your watch? And I know that you recently also started with the lactate monitor.
Yeah.
Do you use that more to monitor and control it? And do you then adjust, or what is your approach to this?
Yeah, I like to check my heart rate. So something that we're dealing with right now, it's like it's really hot here in the summer, and humid, so the effort level is much higher. So like
Hmm.
Victor's been telling me, he like gives me a pace range, but he's like, don't like heart rate's more important than pace. So like keep it within this
Yeah.
heart, like within 5 beats per minute of this range. So yeah, I would say like it's much more important. And I tell the guys like coach those two that are training in the heat right now. It's like, what the effort level is supposed to be for this workout because I'll tell them VO2 threshold.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
sometimes I'll
Hmm.
put like 7 out of 10 effort. I'll say a lot for like threshold. And so it's like, some people are working out on a track, some people are working out on hills or on the road. So there's a lot of different factors and it's windy, whatever. Yeah. So the important thing is, even if you don't have a heart rate monitor, when like you're going past like the purpose of the workout. And so yeah, I
Yeah.
would say, yeah, for me, I always use heart rate as my gauge. And sometimes I'm dumb and I still, go the
Hmm.
pace anyways, just because like I did that in
Yeah.
Hawaii last weekend. Cause I was on vacation and it was so hot there and I still hit the paces and I shouldn't have. I got
Hmm.
way into zone 5 a couple days. So, um, yeah, it's just like, so I'm kind of like, I'm kind of a hypocrite saying this because I don't do it all the time, but
Hmm.
yeah, you got to just,
I think like if you do it overall, then it's okay. Like
yeah,
I'm, because I mean, or I would just assume that you being in the shape you're in right now, it's harder to not go hard because you're like, oh, I can, like, even though it's higher intensity, I can still run comfortably at this
yeah,
pace, and that's kind of weird or like crazy, right? And then you just want to take advantage of those good days too, and it's hard to
yeah,
hold back sometimes, I guess.
yeah, it is. Yeah. It's, we're all competitive people too. So it's just like, even with ourselves, we're competitive and, you
Yeah.
see paces that are much slower in the summer than you see in the fall or like when the weather's better. And, but in
Hmm.
your head, you're just like, I'm going slower than I was a few months ago. But it's like,
Yeah.
it's just the weather's different. So, um,
Oh yeah, that's super interesting, and I think that like I know this, but I also need to hear it. Like today, I went out for 25 kilometers, and so the first half of the run, I was at like kind of the pace that I had in Boston, and it felt super easy. It was like zone 2, touching zone 3 every now and then as the run progressed, I was just like, okay, now I'm getting into zone 3, and it was still not hard physically, but I just you just die out a little
yeah,
bit because it's hot, it's sunny, and it's a super weird feeling because you're not. I didn't get tired in the way that I do during the marathon, but I just at some point I just even though I'm fueling and I had a bottle of water with me, it's like impossible to bring enough water.
yeah,
And after I got home, I was like, wow, I would not be able to run a PR today. But then I also am like, well, hopefully I'll never have to run a marathon in this weather either.
yeah,
So it's kind of like I think a very good reminder what you're saying, that the effort is so different and your body will react differently to such like those days, and especially in the beginning like June here, because now we've had cold weather, right? And then now we're getting hot weather, and then you have to get used to that. So
yeah,
if I did the same one in July, same temperature, I would probably do much better because my body is more used to that temperature.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and like I said, I was in Hawaii last week, and it was just like it was deadly hot, and the efforts were so high. And I mean, these were paces just a few months ago. I was running 20 beats per minute lower heart rate at the same pace,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
it's not that my fitness is any different. It's just like, yeah, it's the weather. So, yeah, but this is why there's no like, and you know, most people don't run marathons in the summer unless it's in a certain part of the world where the weather is more mild. But It's just
Mhm.
like it's a if you're setting off to run a marathon in the heat, like no matter how good you fuel, you do everything right, hydrate, it's still just going to have an impact on your effort level, and it's not going to be an ideal situation. So, yeah, you got to be smart in
Yeah,
training. It's easy to overdo it in the heat, but you know, you gotta, I don't know, you just gotta be careful. Yeah,
exactly. And like being careful with those things, being careful with like obviously or not necessarily careful, but more concerned with nutrition and all of that. Like you're getting to a point as a runner when you're at 222 where you have to start thinking about some marginal gains, right? Like
yeah,
where can you where can you win some more?
yep.
For you now, where you are at and going forward, what do you think those things will be?
Right now, and this is why um, some I actually had a comment on a YouTube video I posted where someone was like, "Why, you just self-coached this last marathon block. It went really well. Why are you picking up a coach?" And it's
Hmm.
for the marginal gains. So
Yeah.
like I said earlier, um, aerobically, I'm good. Like that just comes easy to me. But the shorter
Hmm.
distance stuff is like where I struggle, and I struggle to like just knowledge wise. I need some help on. So like right now, like we're focusing on doing like faster stuff, like under 3 minutes per K type stuff to try to get my
Hmm.
5K and 10K times down. And I'm hoping in turn, in the fall that pays off and makes marathon pace feel easier. So right now, like, yeah, the main gains I'm looking for are anaerobic stimulus. So just trying to get my fast twitch muscles firing again because I've been
Yeah.
neglecting that for years now since college, like 6 years. I've been neglecting like 200s, 400s, like at a fast pace. So yeah, I hired Victor. He's a sub 29 10K guy, and he knows what he's doing with the faster stuff. So that's
Hmm.
the main marginal stuff I'm working on right now. I think the other thing I will say is sleep. I average like
Hmm.
six to 6.5 hours a night, and
Oh wow,
yeah, yeah,
that's not a lot.
no, yeah. So, but it's funny even when we were on vacation and I was getting like 8 because I didn't have to work. Um,
Hmm.
I felt like so much better, like
Yeah.
every day. So yeah, I think, and that was that whole last training block. So it's like, man, imagine like, a lot of workout days, I'll get up on 6 hours of sleep and just get some caffeine in and go work out. So it's like, imagine if I was getting 8 hours, like that whole block, how I would have felt some of those days, instead of like being
Hmm.
groggy. Um, so that's like a huge thing I can tap into too, is like an extra hour and a half, 2 hours of sleep. Like, what can that do for me? So I don't hit the gym at all either. I've been thinking about doing some stuff like that. I would definitely need some help on guidance on that. I'd have to reach out to somebody and see what they could do. But my diet's clean, so the food's dialed and the fueling's dialed. But yeah, strength stuff is another one that I might have to look into. So yeah,
Why do you think that you're? Because at least for me, I've seen that without my strength training, I can say goodbye to running, kind of, because I'm just getting
yeah,
injured. I have experienced though that now that I've built up more mileage, that I've been able to run more without having as frequent of strength trainings, probably because my body's getting used to it, and also there's some strength training to
yeah.
the actual running. But why do you think that you're able to run like you said 200 plus k weeks without getting injured
The
when you're not strength training?
Yeah, so the main thing I do is honestly I do some like body weight stuff. So like I don't know if I've talked about this before on the podcast several times, like the Myrtle routine, which is like a hip and glute strengthening circuit. It's just body
Hmm.
weight stuff. It's nothing. So I do that before every run, and it's just like it's like a good warm up for your hips and glutes, and also just a strengthening routine. So I do that literally before every run. I have like a whole routine of just like light stretching I do every night too. And then I do some band work as well, where I like like resistance bands I put around my ankles and do hip strengthening stuff.
Hmm.
Um, so I have like a stretching and like hip strengthening routine I do every day, but uh, yes, that's been like my main downfalls, like IT band, upper
Hmm.
hamstring type stuff. So I just target that kind of stuff. I don't think like just standing and stretching is like super helpful. So I don't do a ton of that, but just like mainly focusing on the hips and glutes and just doing body weight stuff. That's like been working really well for me. So I think like a lot of muscular like stuff and like for runners, like the key is the hips to me. Like if the
Yeah,
hips are
yeah, exactly.
firing,
I agree.
yeah, if the hips are firing well and they're strong, then I think the rest of the body, that's like the main point where like injuries can stem from. So if the hips and glutes are strong, then and like warmed up properly before every run, I think that's like the most important thing for runners is what I've learned. So yeah, but the Myrtle routine, that's been like my saving grace. I think before runs is just doing that and make sure everything's firing. And I foam roll my hips before every run too, just make sure
Mhm.
totally loose. So and then the rest of the body seems to just follow, and not have any issues if as long as my hips and glutes are good. So yeah.
You should film that and put it out somewhere. I think a lot of people can benefit from it. Um,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
honestly, because like I think that it's easy to listen to a podcast and like, oh yeah, those exercises and stuff, but then it's harder to know exactly what exercises those are. But I also feel like you're almost selling yourself a little bit short when you're saying that you don't do strength training if you're using elastics
True.
or bands because so like me coming from speed skating, we used to have like squats and heavy, like I was pretty strong as an athlete. Now I've realized that I barely use that. I'm almost solely using my own body weight,
Yep.
but I still say that I'm doing strength training. Like I do pistol squats on
Yeah.
like a Bosu ball, like or not. I don't know. I don't even know what you call it. Like the half
Yeah. Yeah.
balancing. I was asking my fiance the other day, and she's like a native English speaker, and she was like, "Yeah, I have no idea what it's
I don't know what
called."
it's called.
But
I know what you're talking
uh,
about though.
yeah, it says made in the US and Bosu on it. So I assume that they call it a Bosu ball or something, but
Yeah.
half Bosu or who knows.
Yeah.
Anyways, like using that has been that is what saved me. So my strength training sessions now, they're not hard in the way where like the way they used to be. I mean, I used to do some workouts where you're dying after and you're tired for a couple of days after and stuff.
Yeah.
But with these, it's like actually something that I could do. It takes me like an hour if like I do it properly, but I'm still not tired after. I can easily go out for a run. So it doesn't need to be like a single workout or training by itself. So when you're saying that you're not doing strength training and then you follow up with this,
Yeah.
I would say that you're still doing strength training. You're just not going to the gym
Yeah.
with weights and yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. Once I was saying it, I was like, well, I guess I kind of do, but like, it's just,
Hmm.
but yeah, like in my head, it's like going to the gym, doing squats, stuff like that. And I don't, because my wife does that like almost every
Hmm.
day. And I haven't been to the gym in years. So I do push ups every now and then, stuff like that, but nothing with like actual
Yeah.
weights. I never do. So I like to
Yeah.
keep myself pretty like limber, I guess. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, you're right. I mean, it is, it is still strengthening the hips and stuff. So, yeah, I guess you're right. It's a good point.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Um, you were talking a little bit about your week and or how you're now trying to balance all the speed work with the threshold training and your easy
yeah,
runs and your long runs. Um, so I also had Rory Linkletter on a few weeks ago, and he was saying that like every 2 weeks, I think he said that he had this 10K workout where he did like two. So I think it was like 7 or 8 times K,
yeah,
and that was at like 235 to 240 for
yeah.
him, which obviously is
Cooking.
is pretty fast. Yeah. And it sounds like you're also doing some of those more speed workouts How often do you do those, and what do they look like for you?
Yeah, so I usually try to do like a more of a like hard workout like that. Like I would refer to it as like a VO2 type session where maybe you have a little longer rest, but like you're running faster.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
I guess one good example of one I did during the marathon block was I did like 14 800s um, on like a minute. I think it was like a minute 30 like standing rest and about like 229 average, I think. So like close to like my like 10K type effort. So it was well below
Yeah.
threshold. My heart rate was in the 180s.
Yeah.
So like well past marathon and half marathon pace. Um, so yeah, that was a good example. I did like another one where it was like with longer rest, it was like 2 by 1600, 4 by 800, and then like 8 by 400, and that was all closer to
Mhm.
like starting at like 10K pace and then working down to 5K type effort on the 400s.
Yeah.
And again with longer rest. And I mean, it's just important to do that stuff because you need to work. Like I said earlier, like you need to work all the systems. You can't just ignore. I've ignored that kind of work for a really long time. Like I said,
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
it's important to do that stuff as a marathoner still because like in order for your marathon pace to drop over time, you need like paces that are faster than marathon pace to also progress.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, right now my 10K and marathon pace are way too close to each other.
Yeah.
So I need
Yeah. I
to
feel you.
make those paces faster in order to make faster marathon pace feel more comfortable. So,
Yeah.
but you can't be doing those workouts like all the time either because they're like
No.
they take quite a bit out of you. I feel
Mhm.
like sore after doing a workout like that versus like a threshold workout. I feel pretty good after that. But that
Mhm.
kind of workout and sounds like Rory too. It's like kind of a blowout workout, and you can't do
Yeah.
that all the time.
Yeah.
So you got to pick and choose when to do it. I usually like to do something like that a little closer to the race, just to like get a
Mhm.
little sharper. But yeah, so you got to be careful and you just can't do it too much. But it is an important part of the block for sure.
I feel like a lot of people, especially if you're new to running and and I think that like American movies, especially, kind of it's very misleading in that way because you see whether it's basketball or track and field, like you see people going all out a day before or 3 days before they're having like back to back really hard sessions, and then they're in the best shape of their lives on Saturday.
Yeah.
And I like obviously that's not how it works, and I feel like that now people are starting to learn this a little bit more. But what you're saying when you were talking about these sessions where you're probably kind of like very tired after, you might feel
Yeah.
like you have blood taste in your mouth or iron, like
Yep.
that a lot of people I think tend to do this like a couple of times a week,
Yep.
and then it's easy to be like burnt out, and then when come marathon day then you're struggling to even move your legs. And I think that this is like what you're saying is so important to emphasize to the listeners, that these workouts are important, but you can't do them very frequently because that's just going to burn you out, and that's where the easy runs are so important to kind of compensate for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, definitely. I we pick up a lot of guys that we coach, and I think they come from backgrounds where they're doing stuff like that, and then you show up on race day and your legs are cooked, and you're like, I don't, my workouts are
Mhm.
going so well. I don't know, I'm not racing well, and
Yeah,
it's because you're going too hard on
they're
your
going too
workouts.
well.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but it's like you can get so much improvement. Like, it seems silly. Like I'm not working out like, a 7 out of 10 effort level, like threshold type stuff. It's like,
Mhm.
feels like I finished the workout and it's like, oh, I could have done like a bunch more reps. And it's like, but then you show up on race day and like, you feel great. And it's like, there's so much benefit working out like that 7 out of 10, 6 out of 10 type level, where like you're not doing too much damage to your body, but you're getting a ton of aerobic benefits. So,
Yeah.
that's what I try to preach to the guys that we coach, and that's a philosophy I've been trying to use too in my own training, and it's been paying off. So, but yeah, you're absolutely right, and it's like Clayton Young's YouTube's really popular right now because he's posted a lot of his builds for his big marathons, and at their level, they work out like really hard. Like all their workouts
Yeah.
seem like almost 9 out of 10 type efforts. I would say Connor
Mm-hmm.
Mann's 10 out of 10 on a lot of
Yeah.
his, but
Yeah.
you got to keep in mind like these guys, their like whole life is training. Like they're professional runners. They get 10 hours of sleep a night. They don't have to work a full time job.
Mm,
They're doing all the little things. They have time like to take naps every day, stuff like that. So
yeah.
they're recovering a lot harder than the average person that isn't a pro runner is too. So you got to take that into account for sure.
Yeah, and I also think that was important to remember with those guys. First of all, some people can handle that for
Yeah.
longer. I mean, Rory's been pretty vocal about how he doesn't think that's even sustainable, right?
Yeah.
Like he seems a little bit maybe less direct about it now than he was a few months ago, but it still feels like, and I honestly like, I'm not saying that it's gonna stop, but that they will hit the wall at some point. But it's definitely more risky, and it is more of an old school way of training. Like their
Yes.
coach is also much more old school. Everything that their coach is doing is more old school. But that being said, I think that from a filmmaker's perspective,
Yeah.
obviously you will want to have those hard
Yep.
workouts in the series. So you don't really know, like obviously, even though it says Monday, Tuesday, whatever, you don't really know if those workouts were back to back. You don't
Yeah.
know if it is, because there's a storytelling aspect of this where if I was making this, yes, obviously I would want to have more of the hard ones on the track or hard ones doing things, because an easy run is not very
Yep.
entertaining, right? And it again goes back to us. We do want to see that football star, basketball star, whoever grinding, and then it's like, okay, they're not able to run that distance on Wednesday, but on Saturday they're like beating everyone on that distance. It's like it's not realistic, but we'd still like to watch
Yep.
it. And so I think that, I guess, kudos to the guy who's making Clayton's
Yeah.
videos too, that this is what's portrayed, and it's easy to be fooled by by the storytelling of a series like
Yeah,
that.
you're absolutely right. Yeah, I think there's probably some like lighter workouts that they just like don't, have on there. And but you're right, it's Rory, I've heard him say, I don't know if it was on our podcast or somewhere else, but he was it might have been on his YouTube where he was like he visited them for like a week or so and like trained with them. I don't know, maybe like 6 months ago. And he was like, I feel like I can't sustain how hard they're working out because
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
they're just going so hard every time out. Like obviously their easy runs are easy enough, but like every workout's just like pretty much we're racing. And
Yeah.
Roy's training is not like that. He's pretty methodical with
Yeah.
threshold days are threshold days, and then every now and then he does a big hit out workout, but yeah, besides that, he's pretty like 7 out of 10 type effort a lot of the time, and that's
Yeah.
working for him. But Rory's been pretty healthy for a while now, but Connor and Clayton always have a little injury going on a lot of the time that they got to
Yeah.
kind of be managing. So that's kind of the risk reward, I guess. But both it's working for all of them.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
we'll see.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we can look 5 years from now and see who's still running,
Yeah.
and then we have some answers.
Yeah. True. Yeah. Who knows? Connor's going for the American record in Chicago. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's but it's for sure fun to like follow American marathoners these days, because
Yep.
the level is just so much higher than it was, and I feel like something kind of just changed or in like the last Olympic season, and just with the Olympics and everything, and you, there's just, the level is different, and it's not just the Kenyans anymore who are up there. You have other racers who are doing well, so it's cool.
Yeah. I think the like important thing with that is a lot of guys are starting marathoning at a younger age, so they're getting better at it
Hmm.
sooner. Because Connor, like, he could have like stayed on the track for a while and then come to the marathon, but pretty much right out of college, he went straight to the marathon, and that's like what a lot of the Canadian guys do because there's more money in marathoning than on the track.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
so I think just like starting marathoning at a younger age, like fresh out of college, has been a big thing for the
Yeah.
top US guys, and they're just they're everyone's learning more about fueling and training methods and stuff like that too. And the super shoes are getting better. So it's an exciting time for US marathoners for sure. Where the track they're you know uh, we just had an American win the Diamond League in Oslo, so in the 5K, which was crazy.
Yeah, I saw.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so I don't know, they're moving the sport forward, and it's excited to watch. So yeah, we'll see. But it's fun seeing Americans compete with Africans for sure. But
Yeah.
I mean, you're from Norway, so you've been enjoying Jakob for some years now. I'm sure cheering for him. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's been fun because he also have now Jakob is obviously the biggest name, but his two brothers too, who were
yeah,
because it's his older brother who started the whole thing, and he came out and like he came out of nowhere kind of, and all of a sudden he was a European champion,
yeah,
and then he's like very non-Norwegian in his way of
yeah.
I don't know. Everything about that family is like not very Norwegian. Norwegians are usually pretty
Yep.
modest, and like we have something called the law of Jante, which clearly says that you're not supposed to stand out or believe that you're better than anyone else. Whilst Jakob and his brothers are like
Yeah.
the total opposite of that, which is I honestly think is refreshing, and I think it's cool. Um, but yeah, it's been that they've definitely changed the sport of running in Norway,
Oh
and
yeah.
it's become so popular. I mean, we see that all over where London had like 1.1 million applicants,
Yeah.
and I got my rejection email yesterday or the day before. It's okay. I'm gonna do Boston, so it's fine.
Yeah.
But it's like it's so popular, and I think it's really cool to see. And I think that's also part of why people are running faster because there's more experience out there, more knowledge on how to do those things and how to run, and people have their social medias where they're more open about it. Podcasts, like everything helps people to just get faster and maybe and more. There are also more teams, I guess, in a way where you can
Yeah.
find your path. So, because if Rory was with Clayton and Connor, like who knows how long he would have been a runner? Maybe he was like, no, this is not for me because it's not working out. And then you have a great talent that could have just changed his training a little bit.
Yeah.
And but now I feel like we have so many groups, so many ways of doing it. So, yeah.
Yeah. There is for
Um,
sure.
I had like one last question for you on the training specific, and that's it's kind of become one of my regular questions to my guests, and that is your long run because I feel like everyone's doing their long runs differently.
Yeah.
Like some people are doing them easy pace all the way, and it's just like obviously not a recovery run, but like a recovery run in the shape of a long run. Some
Yeah.
people are going very hard. Some people have workouts in the middle of them. Like, what is your approach to the long run?
Yeah. So if I'm doing marathon training, earlier in the block, I'll do like I'll start like maybe like first like 5 miles or 8K easy, and then I'll try to get like 10 to 12 miles, so like 16 to 18 Ks at like a steady effort. So like I guess like 15 to like 20 seconds slower like per mile than marathon pace. So like my heart rate's with a max of like 200, my heart rate's usually like 155 to 165 doing that. Um
Yeah.
and so that's just like like not the whole run's hard, just like part of it, and it's like it's comfortably hard. It's not like a really hard effort. So I like to do a lot of that like earlier in a marathon block. But then as I got closer to the marathon, I started doing more like progressive long runs where I'd start at like a pretty solid pace and then get down to marathon pace by the end. So I would do like I would start at like around a minute slower than marathon pace, and then like kind of progress down. So like the whole run was like a pretty hard effort, but not like quite a marathon effort, but
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
and that's like a pretty popular like Kenyan method. They'll do like long progressive long runs like that. And I've never really done that in training before, where I did one that was like 40K, just like progressive, like starting pretty fast and finishing close to marathon pace. And I think those are like super important in marathon blocks because like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you got to get your fueling dialed for that, just like you would for your race. And then it's just like a long like grind effort where it's not like I said, you're not going all out like you're racing a marathon, but it's still like a long like 2 hour plus effort where it's like
Yeah.
really good practice for the marathon. Can't do it every weekend for sure. Um, so yeah, so beginning of the block, I like kind of some steady work, but like that's like half the run. And then closer to the end of the block, I'll do like some of those longer progressive runs, or I'll do some workouts where it's like a warm up, and then I'll do like intervals of marathon pace. So like, you know, I did one where it was like, this is in miles, but it's like 5 miles, 4 miles, 3 miles, 2 miles, 1 mile. So it was like
Mm-hmm.
41K total with like a mile float in
Yeah.
between. And yeah, again, not one you can do every weekend. I was properly sore after that, but yeah. So I think like as you get closer to the peak race, like you got to start doing more specific stuff. But I think earlier in a block, just like some steady type work mixed in with easy is good. So I do like to do some sort of work every long run, not just full easy. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, it just kind of depends on where I am in the block to what I'm gonna do. But I always like to do some sort of pace work every long run. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, so what is the distance then? Like, what is a typical long run for you? Do you have a range, or is it like a specific distance for you that is a long run?
I mean, yeah, it obviously depends on like what your mileage is for the week, like just for anybody out there. But for me, at least 25K, I would say would be like my shortest one probably. But for a marathon, like for this past block, I got all the way up to, I went over marathon distance. I did like a 28-mile one once, so I guess that's like around
Mm-hmm.
45-ish K, but that was like mostly easy. I just wanted to go
Yeah.
like over 3 hours just to like beat my
Yeah.
legs up a little bit and just um, yeah, I don't know. I just thought going over distance, it helps like mentally too. Like I want, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm 30 minutes past it. Like something that I really wanted to do before this past race was to like normalize running over like close to the marathon distance. So when I got to the
Yeah.
line, it's like in my head it wasn't like this is like so far, you know.
No,
Um
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that's something I wanted to focus on, and I did a lot of runs. So like I guess the second half of my marathon block leading up to the 222 race, I did a lot of runs over like, I'm trying to think, like 32, 33K, so like 20 miles. I did like almost every weekend over 20 miles. Um,
Oh.
yeah, yeah. So like by the time the race came, obviously I tapered, but by the time the race came, I was like, pretty comfortable running the marathon distance because I'd done it or like
Mm-hmm.
come pretty close several times in the block. So, yeah, but granted, I was running 200K a week. So, if you're someone
Yeah.
that's running 100K or whatever, I wouldn't do, that far every weekend.
Almost half the distance for one
Yeah,
run.
yeah, yeah,
But I also think that this is the benefit of being as fast as you are because you're actually able to do the distance, right? Like most people will not be able to do the distance, but like without it being so long. Like if you are a 5 hour marathoner,
yeah,
it's pretty hard to go out and do a long run and be out there for, if you're going slower than marathon pace too, like you would have to be out for maybe 6 hours.
yeah,
Like that is an extreme effort, right?
yeah,
So I think that like at least like obviously to me it's very interesting to hear because I think that like if I'm gonna convert it, it would probably be to do like 30 to 35K runs, like
yeah,
or like you said, be out for 3 hours. If I'm going a little bit harder, then maybe I can get up to the marathon distance at some point, like close to the like in near future. But I what I do like about what you're saying is that because it's all also a little bit about that confidence, right? Like it's a confidence boost to just
Mm.
get that distance, and sometimes I think that we obviously talk a lot about the physical advantages or benefits of doing a long hard run, no a long run, and do it a little bit harder at steady, like not doing marathon pace but a little
Yeah.
bit slower. And then you're like, oh, if I did this in training, then yes, I can do this in marathon. That helps a lot. But I think that sometimes it's just a confidence boost, and
Yeah.
it helps a lot. And maybe you didn't have to do that long of an effort. Like you said, you're at 200K plus, then it's different because it doesn't mean that your long run is half of your mileage. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, you're right about the confidence boost. Like um, I think like 3 weeks out from the 222 race was like my like peak long run. So I wore Alpha Flies, and it was like 41 or 40K total, and I did like 25K at marathon, like 222 pace, with like a mile
Hmm.
float. It was separated in intervals by with like a mile float in between, but um, yeah, that was like a huge confidence boost for me that I could do it on race day. And I mean, if you look at like all the top, Kenyans, and like I don't know if you know like Emil Karras, who's like the great British marathoner,
Hmm.
like every almost every weekend they're out there doing 40K, and with like some
Yeah.
sort of pace work. Not It's not a
Hmm.
marathon effort. It's like like Kipchoge, he'll average like 320 or something per K for like a 40K long run. And he'll
Hmm.
do that all the time, like almost every weekend.
Hmm.
So, yeah, if you're going to do that, it's just important not to go full on marathon effort, go like, a
Yeah.
bit easier than that. But just those long, like grindy long runs, they just like, they pay off because, like, obviously, like it's a confidence boost, but you learn a lot about like what fueling works for me in the race. Cause like,
Yeah.
when I get to like 2 hours 15, 2 hours 20 in a long run, and I'm like blowing up, like I'm running out of energy. I'm like, I didn't fuel for this right. But all the long
Hmm.
runs, like closer to the race for the 222 race, I was like doing 100 grams of carbs an hour. I've
Hmm.
never done that before. Like that was a lot of carb intake for me, and I wasn't. There was no bonk. I was like, I still had, and
Yeah.
my legs were tired, obviously from the run, but
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
energy wise, I still had gas. So that was
Yeah.
like a confidence boost going into the race. It was like, if I just fuel like this on the race, there's not going to be an issue of like a bonk. It's just like, my legs are just going to be tired now. I'm going to have to push through that. But, if you train and fuel, like if you fuel like you're going to in the race and it goes well on on a 40K long run like that, then at
Yeah.
least like you're not going to blow up from fueling issues in the race because you've done it in
Yeah.
training
Yeah.
several times. So that was important for me.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Thanks. I guess like in the same way that you are taking like these advices or like the experiences of fast runners, I'm trying to do that myself.
Yeah.
And I kind of recently started looking at the long run as more of a real capacity building workout rather than just an easy run.
Yeah.
For me, like building up the mileage, I do think that I think I've had the right approach up until now, but now that I'm up at like 100K, then I think that having that 25, 30K long run with some, whether it's like steady long run or if there are, like last week, I had 5 times 2,000 meters
Yeah.
at like a pretty hard
Like
pace,
marathon.
like
Yeah.
or fast pace. Yeah. I think that is great. And honestly, I feel better after those runs than I did after the slow ones because I think that my body's just like bored and tired after those 2 hour easy long runs. So yeah, no, I appreciate your input on that. I'm gonna use that in my training going forward.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, we're getting we talked for an hour and a half already. These are like time flies. I just have one last like I don't know question slash topic, and that is uh, about your podcast.
Yeah.
about Life in Stride. I'm obviously a big fan. I love when my Spotify tells me that there are new episodes out. Um, uh, Obviously, for me, like I'm now. I think maybe it's today that it's like 3 months since I started this podcast, and so I'm curious, like a little bit for me, but also for listeners. Like, what are your numbers? How did you get there, and what was your motivation for this podcast?
Yeah, so we started it. There's actually four of us when we started it, but Cheston, he had a fourth kid, so it was time for him to. And he's a director at his work. He's a big shot at his business, so he had some decisions to make on personal life, like giving more time to his family. So he had to leave the pod, but he comes on every now and then still. But yeah, we just like I said, we were guys that work full time, and we also like really care about running, and we thought people would relate to that, and we had a group text together, and it was like it's just funny stuff, and we talk about running and stuff, but a lot of just like funny conversations, and we were like, we should just like do a podcast. I think people would like think this is funny, so we started doing it, and started going growing faster than we thought. Like I said, having Floberg on helped a lot, and some other big
Mm-hmm.
guests. But yeah, so the numbers now, we've been doing it for like a year and a half or so. We get about like 3,000, I guess, listeners a week on average. So it's like a medium-sized podcast, I guess now. I think we've
Mm-hmm.
broken out of, like, small into medium, but we're not a huge one yet. There's definitely some running ones that are much bigger than ours, but, for sure. But yeah, I think we've broken into the medium-sized space, which is cool.
Yeah.
And, I think we have between Spotify and Apple, like, around, like, 2,000 or 2,500, total followers between those 2, so yeah, things are doing good. And I think the key to like growth for us was one, doing two a week was important. I think
Yeah.
just like, and I think we kind of took this from like other big podcasts like Joe Rogan. He has several guests a week, like three or four, and
Yeah.
it's just important to like keep people interested and like if we are posting a podcast two or three times a week and people like if we were just doing one a week and people are really enjoying it, they're going to be kind of like they're going to be like looking for other podcasts and stuff, like if we're only doing
Yeah.
one a week. So
Yeah.
if we're giving them like as much content as we can, they're just going to keep sticking around, keep listening. So it's important to just like be consistent and just pump out as much as you can. So yeah, we try to do two a week at least, sometimes three. And I think one thing that's important too, I talked about was one, having on like big guests because a lot of their audience will stick
Mm-hmm.
around if they like you, which is great. And then also having those episodes with no guest where they get to know us a little bit. I think
Yeah.
people like resonate with our stories a lot and enjoy just hearing us talk about our training, and they just relate to our lives in general. Like Scotty's got three kids and we all work full time and have normal life stuff
Yeah.
going on like everyone else. So it's important too for like us to let the audience like get to know us and get like attached to us a bit about like what's going on in our lives. So um, yeah, so all of those things kind of combined has helped with the growth, and I hope we can keep it going. We're motivated for sure to continue. So
Yeah.
and we have a great dynamic. All of us, we're great
Oh
friends,
yeah.
and
So good.
what you hear on the pod is how we are in real life. So, there's never any. We have a business now. We're registered as a business and a bank account, all that stuff. So we never thought it'd be anything like that. And we coach around 30 athletes too through the podcast. So yeah, it's like I said, in a year and a half, it's grown more than I thought it would, and it's just been, it doesn't feel like work. It's just all fun. So yeah, it's good
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, congrats on that, and it's well deserved. I mean, it's really good, and I think you talked about it in one of your episodes, and I think I mentioned it in the episode with Danny too, that you were, what was it, the party of the podcasts or something that someone called you. I don't
Yeah,
remember
yeah,
what
yeah.
it was that exactly, but I think that's a great way of saying it because it's it's um it's a podcast that you can laugh at, and it's so funny because sometimes maybe it's Scotty doing it the most, but like you're having a conversation with someone and then all of a sudden he's like, "Oh, this happened to me last week." And it comes out of nowhere. And I love that because it's just like this is a real conversation. It's not staged, like things are very natural, and I think that is also one of the reasons why people will fall in love with you guys, if that's if that's a good term to
Yeah.
use. But yeah, no, I just want to say thank you to you and the guys for the pod, and also to Scotty if he listens to this, and bring him the message that I want to have him on too. He's not forgotten about. Now with 2 out of 3, but um, I guess like one of the reasons why I wanted to ask that question about the pod was that you were saying that about sleep, getting in more sleep,
Yeah.
and for you, like now you're combining this with your full-time
Yep.
job. Is your dream that this podcast can grow into something where you can do that full time kind of, and then have more time to sleep, more time to train, and not have to get up at whatever hour you're getting up at?
Yeah, I mean, that's the dream for sure. Scotty and Danny have been like trying to talk me into doing that right now, like going full time on the pod, but it would be like, luckily my wife works, and
Hmm.
she actually makes like pretty solid money as a police officer here. They take pretty good care of her, and we don't have any kids or anything, but it'd be a pretty like decent pay cut right now. So it's kind of,
Hmm.
they say, um, take the leap. A lot of times, like people, if you ask people like, how did you get to where you are? They said they took the risk and went for
Yeah.
it. And it feels like we're kind of at a point where like maybe we do that, and then the pod grows 2 3 times if one of us
Yeah.
did that. But it's just tough because right now like it'd be enough to like live off of and stuff, but it would be a pay cut for sure. So it's just kind of like, it's a tough decision because we have a couple sponsors for the pod, which is great, but most of our money comes from coaching. So if we
Yeah.
picked up like quite a few more athletes, then maybe it would be like more feasible. But until then,
Hmm.
I'm probably gonna hold off. I would love to do it though, and we talk about it a lot, but uh, maybe in the next year or so, but not quite where I want to be yet financially to do it. It seems like a bit too big of a risk, but maybe I should. I don't know.
Well, as a person who has his own business and took that leap, I do encourage you to do that.
Yeah,
It's pretty great, like being able to be in control of your own everyday life and everything like that, and be like, "Hey, can you work that day?" No, sorry, I'm somewhere else.
yeah,
I but that is like obviously the luxury of it, and it's just you have to get to that point where uh, you're able to do that. But I also have said to a couple of friends of mine who are in the creative space, and I'm like, well, if you don't have kids, like, what is the risk? Like, if you're able to provide for yourself a little bit, or if you have some kind of buffer, then go for it and try, because
yep,
you can always go back, right? At least
yeah,
most people can go back and get their job, whether it's the same job back or get a job somewhere. So it's like
yeah.
it's not as big of a risk as people make it out to be.
Yeah, I definitely could come back to my job or get a similar job. So, yeah, you're definitely right. I've talked about it with my wife some. It would be really fun for sure to do. And like I said,
Hmm.
you know, when we do podcasts and when I'm like writing plans and stuff, it like doesn't feel like work because I just love it. Like I love talking about running.
Yeah.
I love coaching people and seeing them run PRs and stuff. It's really rewarding. So, yeah, I'm hoping it gets to that point. I think I would be the one that would go full time first. Um, and maybe that's because I don't love my job very much, my full time job. So, um, Yeah, and Scotty's got a really successful business that he has, so I wouldn't want
Yeah.
him to step away from that. So, um, yeah, I don't know. Maybe in the next year or so, we'll talk about that more seriously. But if we continue the same trajectory we're on, it might be possible in the next year. So we'll see.
I hope it will happen.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Anyways, I've taken up so much of your time. We're 17 minutes over the time that I set aside for or like put into your in the
Oh, you're
invite.
good,
I'm
dude.
sorry about that,
I got nothing going
but
on. No worries.
good. I heard that Danny kind of name dropped me in the your podcast after the last episode, and he was like, "Dude, we talked for like almost 2 hours. He's probably gonna edit out a lot of it." And I was like, "I'm not editing out any of
No,
it. It
yeah,
was a
yeah.
great conversation." So I'm just really grateful. Thank you so much for coming on, for all the insight and for everything that you shared. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries, man. Thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun. If you ever want me back on, I'm 100%. I enjoyed it, and I appreciate you've been a fan of the pod for a while, so I really appreciate that and sticking around with us. So I appreciate that too.
Of course, I don't think I would have been able to run as much if it wasn't for you guys being on my ears. So
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah, no worries, man. Well, yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate the invite.
Another long episode, but dude, that was a great conversation. And it's funny when you meet people or talk to people that you listen to or have like seen a lot online or on, yeah, whether it's podcasts or YouTube or Instagram, and then you feel like you know the person and it feels so natural. And in this case, I feel like both of us having followed each other for a while, it just felt like such a good conversation between friends and something that I just thought was great. So now 2 hours later, we are here. Or I guess it's almost 2 hours, but we're here, and I hope that you really loved this conversation. And if you did, please, like I said, give this podcast a review and just have a great day, because I think we should just finish it here. Thank you for listening to the Marathon Podcast. I'll talk to you in the next one. You'll listen to the Marathon Podcast, brought to you by Wild Studio.